Hi Muglets! Today we're going to be raising Baizhu, the newest Genshin Impact character. We did prepare in advance, so we shouldn't really need to farm anything, but because of that I do want to quickly go over what he needs and where to farm it. We will need to make some jade chunks though. 3rd star, 60, but yeah, for the initial showcase I usually like to stop at level 70 for new characters. You can see the mats he needs here. These are coming from the new boss over in the new area. Violet grass, which is a Liyue specialty. They are pretty much everywhere in Liyue. We have like a good 5 or 6 big clusters of them. I'd recommend just getting out an interactive map for this. And then of course, crystalline cyst dust. You get these from the mushroom enemies. Just make sure to not attack them with electro or pyro. Otherwise, you're more likely to get this drop, which he doesn't need. On screen currently is the amount you need of each material to get him to a certain ascension and level. As for talents, of course, you will also need these fungal spores, the same fungal spores he needs for ascension, as well as teachings of gold, which are open Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday here in Liyue. You will also of course need Mora. The amounts of books, materials, and everything for a given talent level will be on screen as well here. But yeah, now that he's raised, I'd say it's a good time to do the talent and constellation overview. Baizhu is a catalyst user, so his normal attacks will be dealing Dendro damage. Compared to most other catalyst users, his basic attack has a very short range. His charge attack looks pretty cool too. He'll throw a little like Dendro spike in the ground. Baizhu is primarily a healer though, and this is where his skill comes into play, Universal Diagnosis. He'll throw out a little sprite dude that goes around and attacks opponents. It'll hit up to 3 opponents and eventually return. If there are less than 3 enemies, it still will hit 3 times, just on the same enemy, if there's only 1 for example. And on its return, it'll heal everyone. And this is based on Baiju's max HP scaling, pretty typical for a healer, nothing to complain about there. His burst actually sounds quite good. He'll create a Dendro shield with 200% effectiveness versus Dendro, as element shields usually are, but I find this very interesting because I would think about using him in a bloom team, and cumulatively, your own blooms can really hurt you over time. While in burst mode, which lasts 14 seconds, he will create a new one of these shields every 2.5 seconds. And every 2.5 seconds, when he creates a new shield, it will not only heal the active character out on the field, but also deal Dendro damage. The shield itself is not very strong. At level 1, it's 0.8% of his max HP plus 77, so it's a pretty weak shield, but again, it only lasts 2.5 seconds anyway. With Baiju's first passive here, he'll gain buffs depending on the active character's current HP. If the active character has under half, Baizhu will get 20% extra healing bonus, and if they are equal to or above half, he'll gain a 25% Dendro damage bonus. And Baiju's final passive here honestly sounds pretty crazy. For every 1,000 max HP, he has up to 50,000, so basically up to 50 stacks. This will increase all the Dendro reaction damage by 2% per stack, so up to 100% for Burning Bloom, Hyperbloom, and Bergen. Spread and Aggravate are only 0.8% per stack, but that's still 40%, and Spread and Aggravate are already very strong reactions anyway. 50k HP might be doable. I also found his Exploration passive pretty interesting. Harvesting certain items will heal your active character a little bit. As for his constellations, C1 gives us an extra charge for Universal Diagnosis, his elemental skill. C2 sounds a little bit weird and confusing. Basically, when you have a different active character out on the field besides Baizhu, and they attack an enemy, Baizhu will sort of unleash an off-field attack. It's similar to his elemental skill, but it'll only heal 20% as much, but it will deal Dendro damage, so really doesn't sound bad honestly. C4, I gotta say though, does sound very bad. After Baizhu does his burst, it's an 80 elemental mastery buff for the entire team, and it's only for 15 seconds, where his burst has a 20-second cooldown, so it's not even a permanent 80 elemental mastery. It's pretty bad for a C4, I gotta say. How about C6 though? I mean, C6 is better than C4 for sure. I would still say it's not that good for a C6 just on paper. The Spirit Vein damage gaining 8% of his max HP as additional damage does sound pretty good. I imagine it would do a decent amount of damage then. And the second part is that you will guaranteed get a new shield whenever his elemental skill hits opponents. This can also be triggered by his off-field every 5 second from C2. Honestly though, I'd say maybe C1. C2 doesn't sound horrible, but anything past that I would say is not really interesting. Just my opinion though. So now that we know a little bit more about Baizhu, let's go ahead and finish him up. We raised his elemental skill and burst. I don't think his basic attack is going to be very important honestly. For now I'm going to leave it at level 1, but his skill level directly influences how much it heals and is based off of his max HP. We went from 8 to 11%, and his burst increases a lot of things, the strength of the shields he creates, which are still not going to be very strong, but also the healing of the shield when it's broken or refreshed, that every 2.5 seconds. The Spirit Vein damage increasing I don't think will really matter that much until C6, but it's there. and the damage is cool because it applies Dendro. Now let's go ahead and talk about weapon. Obviously, if you have a signature, that would be the best for him. That's just how it goes. He really wants to have a lot of HP, has HP main stat. I think Everlasting Moonglow would be all right for him. It does have HP main stat and increases his healing bonus by 10%. The rest of the passive won't really do too much for him, honestly. I usually like to stick with 4-star weapons for the initial showcase. Unfortunately, the only weapon we have with an HP main stat that is a little bit raised is this level 50 Thrilling Tales. He would be a bit of a buffer as well in that case. The only other weapon with HP percent is Prototype Amber, which is a craftable weapon. I really do think it'd be a solid weapon for him, honestly, but again, it's craftable, might be a little harder than Thrilling Tales. There could, of course, be other considerations like Elemental Mastery main stats or energy recharge main stats. It really depends on how you want to use him. I would say he's going to be best suited as a healer in a Dendro reaction focused team like Bloom, Hyperbloom, Spread, Aggravate, whatever. Until God mode, we're probably going to stick with Thrilling Tales, honestly. Let's at least level it up a little bit though. I guess 80 is enough for now. As for artifacts, of course, there is going to be a very heavy emphasis on HP. As for set, I am leaning towards Deepwood Memories. Flower of Paradise Lost, I think, is another consideration, but it should be more reserved for characters that are going to have a naturally huge amount of elemental mastery, where Baizhu, I don't think there's going to be much room to get a bunch of EM when we may very well be going like triple HP. At level 70 with Thrilling Tales, I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to 50k HP, but let's see how close we can get. Just going to raise a couple of HP artifacts just so we can see really what we end up with triple HP. In this case, the subs don't really matter, but we would be looking for energy recharge and possibly some elemental mastery, because it is possible he is going to trigger some of these reactions, as he will be doing a little bit of off-field Dendro stuff with his shield, explosions, subs on Plume and Flower, HP, energy recharge, maybe some EM. This one looks decent. Got some HP rolls, unfortunately more into the flat HP than percentage based. See what happens with this one. No HP rolls, a lot of energy recharge though. Yeah, all right, we'll go with this one with this 14%. We could go off-piece Plume just to try and get as much HP as possible. This one that Nilou has on, which maybe I shouldn't steal. We'll steal Kokomi's. In a Bloom team at least, I guess Baizhu would kind of replace her. And yeah, we're only at 38k HP. Let's check with Hydro Res. Probably at level 90 with his signature weapon, that would be 50k. Definitely solid. His build currently is purely HP focused, so there's not gonna be much to see here, honestly. He does have a little bit of energy recharge. We'll see if it's enough. All right, so there are a couple of teams I wanna try. There's also one thing I wanna test first. Like his last passive here says it increases all these Dendro reactions, including Bloom. Does that include Bountiful Core Bloom? Because I have Nilou, and when I'm gonna do a Bloom team, I'm gonna do a Bountiful Core Bloom team. It's gonna be a little hard to see if he's actually doing something here, because it only lasts for 6 seconds, and it's only after his burst shield heals the character. I think if we take as many variables out as possible, it might be a little bit easier. Let's say just Nilou and Baizhu, they should be able to create Bountiful Cores on their own. Let me see what a default Bountiful Core does here. Let's just do his E, 10,600. I want to make sure he triggers them just so it's like consistent. I haven't done his burst yet, so he shouldn't be getting that boost. All right, let's go to Testing Man Masanori. That is a Baizhu created, 86. So basically, if it's significantly more after doing burst, then yes, it affects Bountiful Cores. So I want to actually get away from him. He is currently Hydro. Okay, let's wait. There we go. And 10,000. I'm really not sure. I think the 10,000 is coming from Deepwood Memories, honestly, which might mean that his passive doesn't work on Bountiful Core Bloom. That's what it's looking like right now. It could be that it just doesn't apply to himself for some reason. So let's rule out that possibility by doing non-Bountiful Core Blooms and seeing if they become stronger than normal Blooms, even if he is triggering them. So a normal Bloom. Come on, explode, normal Bloom, hurry. 1800. That's really weak. Yeah, 1800 it looks like. Although we should test it with his skill so that Deepwood is proccing on both. Let's see what this Bloom does. 2238. Okay, that's with Deepwood. Now let's see after burst with his passive there. Oh, don't run away from the Bloom. Okay, let's see. 3527. So yeah, that gets a massive bonus, and I don't believe Bountiful Cores did, which is kind of sad. So we went from like 2200 after Deepwood proc to 3500 after his passive as well. So that is weird though, because rereading Nilu's talent, it says Bountiful Core damage is considered damage dealt by Dendro cores produced by Bloom. So it really should affect Bountiful Core damage as well, I think. I will try it once more just to be absolutely sure. It definitely affects normal blooms. I can definitely see that. A Baizhu triggered Bountiful Core does approximately 9,500. That is also with Deepwood active. Now with Baizhu Burst active and that passive there. Yeah, I mean, it's 10,000 now. Isn't a big difference. Definitely not as big of a difference as it increasing by like 80%. I guess we can see if Nilu's blooms get more powerful. Let me do some blooms with her, I guess. 27? I don't think I saw any 27k blooms normally though, so I don't know. The only thing I can think of is that it does affect Bountiful Cores, but it's placed somewhere in the multiplier where it like doesn't do much, because our normal blooms did get like maybe 1500 to 2000 damage more. He obviously still could be used in a Bountiful Core bloom team, but it's unfortunately not as good as I was hoping. There's still spread and aggravate, of course. We shouldn't need to do any testing for that, but I guess just to kind of see a quantifiable number, we can. Yeah, so when we do hit the aggravate, it is around a little under 10,000, we can say. Now I want to see what happens when we have Baizhu Shield. Let me see here. 10,600? Is that right? Okay, it's really not that much more than I thought it would be. Obviously the actual damage increase, like in a full team, you know, doing rotations and buffs and skills and everything, there would be a bigger difference overall, of course. Just on paper, I thought it'd be a lot more impressive. I'd say he'd probably fit like the best in a Hyperbloom or Bergen team. Though, I mean, if you do need Dendro and a healer, he could slot into any Dendro reaction team pretty nicely, I would say. I guess the passive isn't as insane as it initially sounded. I do want to try a more Hyperbloomish team. And also regular bloom, you know, with Kava here as well, could be really good, since my main issue with normal bloom is that they take forever to explode, but he has a cool little skill that makes him explode immediately. This video isn't about Kave though. We'll get to him a bit later. I think we're gonna go something like this. The one actually causing Hyperbloom is the Electro. And with Kuki Shinobu, I think since we also have Baizhu as a healer, we can put a lot more focus on Elemental Mastery for Kuki Shinobu. Both Baizhu and Nihida are in Deepwood at the moment, which is a little redundant because the 4-piece doesn't stack, as far as I'm aware anyway. But it would make it extra sure that they always have Dendro Res, I guess. I wouldn't really know what else to give Baizhu outside of HP sets. And in a team, maybe without Nihida, it would still be good. So some of you may have seen my reaction guide I posted a little while ago. And in my research phase, I came to learn a good amount, like how Hyperblooms are transformative reactions, and it's mainly the level and elemental mastery of the character triggering them that matters. I always thought though that the element damage bonus at least still matters. Like if you're doing Bloom, then Dendro damage bonus would matter. I gotta say, it feels like the more I learn about this game, the more I don't know about it, which means we may as well just go Elemental Mastery Goblet. 24k, yep, they're doing quite a bit more now, the Hyperblooms. But yeah, this video is about Baizhu. I wanna see how much he increases them now. So they're doing about 24 non-crit, 48 crit. So Hyperbloom, wait, do stuff? 27? We could get more damage by doing Nihida Burst, but we haven't done Nihida Burst the entire time, so I don't want to mess with that now. Do we have to go to Kuki Shinobu? Is it only the active character that gets the buff? Oh, characters who are healed, which means Kuki would actually have to be out on the field to get this bonus. I'm sure Baizhu stayed out while we were testing Bountiful Cores. All right, let's switch to Kuki Shinobu and just kind of hope we can get some... 29. Okay, wait. I saw 29 Hyperbloom. 58. There is definitely an increase there, but it's not crazy. It's not a crazy increase. And it is kind of inconvenient. You have to switch to the character that's triggering the reaction. So yeah, I'd say in some circumstances when you'd be out with the character anyway, I think that's okay. But regardless, there were some pretty nice Hyperblooms. I just wouldn't focus on the passive too much. It doesn't actually do as much as it sounds like. I would think even with 50,000 HP and apparently increasing the damage by 100%, you're not gonna double your damage. It feels like you should, but there's no way. Like, I'm not seeing that. It must come pretty late in the in the mathematical formula chain, whatever. So there is definitely a bonus there, but I don't think it's ever going to actually be double damage. So before we wrap it up, there is one thing I didn't really touch on, but you've probably seen it throughout the video. His healing is actually crazy. Not his burst healing, his elemental skill healing. As a healer, that's something that's probably worth talking about. I'd say he's definitely, oh God, that's gonna kill me, yeah. Well, that's fine. I'd say he's probably one of the best healers, honestly. This is just his elemental skill. With a 10-second cooldown, look, everyone gets healed from that. Everyone. 10-second cooldown, and it heals a ton when he's built with HP. Comes back, heals everyone for 5,500 every 10 seconds. His burst unfortunately only heals the active character, and it doesn't even heal as much as his elemental skills. So this is, I guess, more for the passive boost. It's also good, you know, to prevent getting hurt from the Dendro explosions too much. So I'd say he still is a shoo-in in Bountiful Core Bloom just because of that, mainly for the Dendro shield and the fact he is such an amazing healer. And in my Bountiful Core team, the units there have a lot of HP. There are a couple of very high HP units, Baizhu himself, Nilou of course, so a good healer is a must. I guess that was pretty much it. This initial showcase had a lot more testing than I'm used to doing, but I had some questions I wanted answers to, so, and I guess I more or less learned what I wanted to. It is a bit of a shame his passive is a little bit less amazing than I thought it was, or that it sounds on paper, and that it either doesn't buff Bountiful Cores at all, or buffs them very tinily, but he is an amazing healer and Dendro if you need that for your team. But yeah, make sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below. Oh, dropping a like or subscribing to the channel if you enjoy is always greatly appreciated as well. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.